No, it should be green. Go, right? I don't know.
On the air is always red, though.
Is it?
As far as
In your broadcasting
in all my
experience?
broadcasting experience, there's a light
I always
above
see
the door that says "on the air," and it's
always in
red.
a black and white show that you can't. It's like because nobody was is on the radio anymore like that live thing.
Right.
I guess
I don't know.
Green
But-
means go. I guess. Oh, see, red, not red. You didn't hit.
So red does mean go.
Yeah, I guess. Arizona is a wildly beautiful place, brimming with over 100 brewing companies. I'm Rob Fulmer, the Director of Government and Community Affairs for the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. I'm joined by Executive Director Andrew Baum. Together, we cover the state, bringing you the best of what's happening at our breweries and beyond. Welcome to Arizona Beer Frontier.
Red means record. Yeah, red record. It starts with R.
Okay, great. I'll remember that.
There you go.
Green means go, red means record. I don't know. I ran out of coffee this morning, so having to do all that stuff, and it's now
You ran
noon.
out of coffee at your house?
Yeah, we ran.
Oh
out
my
of coffee.
God.
So we had, we had guests and things, and
I got my subscription from Amazon delivered yesterday.
yeah,
However, I did have to pick up. So this is a fun story.
yeah,
I went to Sprouts because I had some stuff to get, like organic garlic to plant and ginger to make my ginger stuff with. And I said, I better check on coffee. So I go and I look and there's the Black Death Coffee Company, right?
okay,
Or one of those.
right,
Dead on Arrival Coffee Company.
okay.
I don't know what it's called.
At least they're not going with the butthole hot sauce thing.
Sure.
Like
Absolutely.
everything has to do with your butthole when it comes to hot sauce.
It's true. It's true. You're
You're running out of those.
They had a big thing that said, manager's discount. And I looked, and that regular size bag of coffee
yeah.
was $18, marked down to $6.
Okay.
I bought it,
Yeah.
but why was it $18? I don't understand.
I don't know.
I
Maybe it's like craft beer.
don't think so.
Bottom is falling out a little bit.
I mean, I tasted it. It was not like, oh. Anyways,
That's what I meant.
yeah, so I had to buy that before our coffee came in yesterday anyway. So, yeah, I feel your pain. There you go.
So we have a bunch of small news items. Maybe they'll be big by the time we talk about them. And they're just mostly about what's going on in the industry. And there's a couple of, hey, this isn't so bad news. And when you think about it, when I started 10 years ago, we were on the cusp of 30 breweries and nobody knew it was going to get to close over 100 here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Was it so terrible when there were 30, 40, 50 breweries? No, not really. It was good. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
So you're saying retraction in the market isn't necessarily always bad?
I think consumers will still have a good variety of choices. There will be a contraction of their choices at the supermarket.
Yeah,
But,
it doesn't matter if breweries close or not. They're going to be taking away choice at the supermarket.
Right.
Period. End of story.
Right. And they should, to some degree. Honestly, there is the argument that there is a lot of stuff on the market that was pushed there because after COVID, pre-COVID, breweries invested in that, thinking that was the way forward. And so you've got a lot of product that doesn't have a market to support it. And when I say market, I don't necessarily mean consumers don't want it. But you got the brewery on one hand and you got the consumer, and there are a dozen ways to get it there. And none of the retailers want to talk to every individual brewery. They don't want to sit down for tastings for 50, 60 choices a week, right? I mean, that would be an amazing job if that's all you had to do. You
Choose which beers
right.
we're going to go on the
we
shelf.
have a drug and alcohol policy for our employees, except for that guy. He's got to drink all that beer and figure out what we're going to put on the shelves.
Do you remember yesterday when we were talking about why doesn't anyone brew a brown ale?
Oh yeah. We were at a meeting, so this was amongst
We
our
had
board members,
meeting, yeah.
people who are knowledgeable in the industry. But go ahead, please.
Well, we were discussing that there are some things that sell like awesome at the tap room, but you can't sell it out in the market no matter what.
Right.
And I think that if you go to I don't know, man, like giving consumers more choices is always the way I would prefer to go for our members and for consumers. I also understand that if you go to Fry's, even a big giant Fry's, and you're looking at the shelf and you've got 12 different hazy IPAs,
Yeah.
there's not a point in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is where the volume is, and when you scale up, or there's some things that require scale, and once you get to scale, those are the opportunities that you're looking for. Those kinds of grocery store opportunities. But let's be realistic. I think we always felt like if you wanted the best beer, you want to go directly to the brewery if you can, especially if they don't have a robust packaging program. Now, I mean, if you go to a lot of breweries, even some of the hype ones that do move a lot of canned product, sometimes the dirty secret about breweries is it's the worst place to get packaged goods, because as soon as they're put in packages, they don't make any money until they're out of there, right? Till the distributor picks them up. So you're not going to get necessarily, and your tap room is going to be the first place where you're going to get a shortage. They would rather short the tap room of their own tap room than a customer down in their portfolio, right? You never want to be out of product. I know as a consumer, you kind of come to expect, oh, they're out of it, might be a couple weeks. But really the expectation on that level is to never be out of product.
Every day that shelf has a hole in it is a day that brewery is not getting a sale. And every time there's not a scan of that beer through the grocer's POS is a negative day. It's like when your DoorDash driver spilled some of the soup in the bag, and so you give him a 4-star rating. That dude is not going to be working next week.
Yeah.
That's how it is. If you don't give them a 5-star, they are out.
Yeah. Pretty much. And so it is realistic to expect at a large grocery store to buy large brands, and hopefully some local brands. That's a good expectation to have. And if, again, people ask, well, what can I do about this? Like, if you and all your friends and everybody just says, when they ask you, did you find everything? If you literally say, I wish I had, you're drinking Wrenhouse Black Caddis. I wish they had Wrenhouse Black Caddis. They had some other product I didn't like. If you literally make it a point to say that, I mean, eventually.
It takes like 4 people.
But you have to be persistent, and, I mean, it feels good to say, honestly. And the cashier doesn't know anything from anything.
Sure.
But it'll get moved. So anyway, it's super realistic to have those expectations. Did 20 years ago, I mean, Total Wine wasn't a thing here.
Right.
Bevmo wasn't a thing here. Big box stores like that for liquor weren't a thing. You couldn't buy beer at Target or Walmart. So you didn't have convenience stores with the 19-ounce cans.
Or growler stations.
Do you remember growler stations and gas stations? Growler stations and gas stations? And there was some, oh my gosh, they're not going to know what to do and all that. I mean, there were a lot of choices that weren't available, and those were avenues that potentially could have been a place for craft beer. But it is kind of controlled a lot by the middle tier, the distributors. So, but I mean, we don't have a state with a lot of mom and pop liquor stores.
But they are out there.
Yeah. But
and there are definitely on the beer side more options for local bottle shops to pick up from now than there have been in a long time.
Right. Right.
They have a huge selection. Some do, some don't.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I live in Tempe. I live close to this office. You know, do I buy from Tops? Yes. And, you know, people say, oh, they have a lot of warm shelf stuff there. I'm like, I know what I'm buying. You know, I bought you those Terrace Bulba Saison, that holiday Saison. Like, is it the best that beer's ever seen? No. But are you ever going to get it anywhere else? No. But I mean, they do have if you have, you know, a local choice and you have something you regularly pick up, if you buy it from the same place, it's going to move a lot better. It's going to support a small business. I'm near Bottle Shop 48. So I'll buy there. And you know, they have warm shelf now too, because they're starting to get some more pull. But I mean, try to be for you and I, it's a little chaotic because we're all over the state, and you know, we find ourselves outside of our neighborhood a lot.
Right.
But if you have a 9 to 5 and you know, you buy beer on Thursday for the weekend or whatever, and your habits are pretty regular, like, I would encourage you to buy from those places, because those places are the places that are really going to save us in the long run. The entirety of the industry. Now,
yeah.
the top.
Well, also, you just get a better choices there.
Yeah.
Like, that's straight up true. And I know that's not, and I'm not saying that breweries that send beer to grocery stores shouldn't, or that it's a bad thing. Obviously, it's a great thing. If you have a brand that's on fire and you can get it into that grocery store that can move a lot of volume, good, awesome. But if you are someone who's, as a consumer, is more focused on the breadth of the industry and the choices that you can get, you can't do it at a grocery store.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know why we're even talking about this.
well, I'm just setting us up for some of the discussion here about,
Like pouring love into local?
yeah, that's one thing. If you want to talk about that first, I was going to say that, you know, there were a lot of doom and gloom stories out there, but there are some more rational pieces coming out there. And yes, it won't be United States breweries at 10,000. It will be some other number. And
Maybe we can brew with Greenland water soon.
yeah.
So Pour Love into Local is a promotional adventure that our friends at the Brewers Association are helping to keep local breweries top of mind during January, which is traditionally a very difficult month for all food service and hospitality, because people are getting those credit card bills in. They partied really hard for 2 weeks straight.
They run out of coffee at their house.
They ran out of coffee because they were partying so hard.
Exactly.
So it's a really tough time, and then you pile dry January on top of that, and it's a double hard time for breweries. So there's a way to keep breweries top of mind. You don't have to drink beer when you go to breweries. There's plenty of other things to do. There's plenty of other beverages and food and people and entertainment to keep you busy. So
Yeah.
even if you're not drinking, don't.
You know, I find myself exploring food trucks through my breweries. You know, like I know there's food truck fests, and I know, but they are that's where I'm introduced to new food trucks, is through some of the breweries.
Right.
You know, the shop in my neighborhood, you know, they sometimes it's not even a truck; it's a tent, and it's the only place that I know that I've ever seen the New Zealand meat pie guys. You know, like they had a Japanese themed pasta truck.
Yeah.
Salaryman. So the other night there was Cajun, and I wouldn't have had it had I not dropped in to the brewery. Yes, I had a beer. I'm not participating in the dry aspect of dry January. But you know, on this show, I'm drinking coffee now. I don't always drink beer on the show. We drink hop water sometimes. We do all kinds of fun stuff.
There's tons of options at breweries.
Right. So it was it is a Brewers Association initiative, but it was driven by a couple of our guild leaders that said, hey, we're really, this, of all the times that we're facing, and we've faced this quarter, this is probably one of the roughest. So we really need to have a coordinated message. So
Right.
Through that group, which I was just kind of a bystander, they arrived at this. I wasn't part of the logo discussion and the slogan discussion, but I think it's good. It was the one I preferred of all the choices. So, because some of the other ones like local is better, I don't think really capture it. This is really like, I'm going to go back to the story and I'm going to explain why I'm dressed like this. If you're on the YouTube, so I am in my lobbying attire. I have this week we are participating in fundraisers, and it gives me an opportunity to talk about our legislative issues and set the table for next week when the session begins. Anyway, during the pandemic, people asked, "Hey, how can I support the breweries?" I said, "Support the places you can walk to." So now I'm going to have a dry cleaning bill coming up, as I
walk around in your fancy clothes.
Right. The dry cleaner near me is still around, so support those kinds of businesses, So, we're talking about Dry January. You are familiar, of course, with Jeff Allworth from Beervana. Writes. He used to do a podcast, and I'm sad to hear that that's canceled. It's been canceled for a while. He does a blog. He's written books. He is sort of taken it upon himself to begin an organization to celebrate Oregon beer, which is the state he's from. And part of that is he's calling it Pub January. So this was before our Pour Love into Local.
Sure.
And, it makes sense because he's folded it into his organization. But he's got a little beaver logo with a hop on it, like he's like the Wanderlust logo, but it's a beaver.
Right.
But part of their strategy, and it seems a little bit kind of like what we try to encourage for Beer Week. It's they have candle painting nights, chess nights, comedy shows, fly tying, for fly fishing.
Absolutely.
God, that would be a great thing to do in Northern Arizona. Right?
I don't know if you've ever met Ken Wilson, but he is going to a fly fishing class with his son. I learned about that the other day.
Macrame workshop, magic shows,
Sure.
speed painting.
What about bracelet making?
That's not on there, but
maybe I can call him.
maybe you could go up
Update
there.
your bullshit now.
So, we have our Beer Week coming up, and that's the kind of things that we want to push as well. Our breweries are, they have different models, and they are individual businesses with different, they have different
Vibes.
Yeah, well,
But, most of the breweries that I ever talk to, go to, see online, they do special events every week.
Yeah.
No one is sitting around just like, okay, everyone come to me and drink my beer. They're all doing special events that they're pushing every week. Whether it might be trivia.
Yeah.
Could be karaoke.
Yeah. When I
Bingo.
was at the shop on Monday, it was very crowded. It was trivia night. And, I know that works very well. And I know, I think even the places that are doing something every day, every week, it's got to mix it up a little bit. And also, I don't go enough, or I don't hear enough, and people probably have to rely on social media, but I'm sure there are people who can hit trivia night every week.
Oh yeah. I mean,
every
Fate
day.
does it every Tuesday.
Okay, so we're here, and I didn't even know that.
Well, you didn't look at the bathroom.
I'm not into trivia,
It's on the bathroom for like the last 6 months.
I'm in my own head when I'm in the bathroom. I don't
That's
really
nice.
like to read.
Okay.
Sorry, but so there's Dry January, and there's Pour Level into Local, and if you're in Oregon, there's Pub January, but. I think our Pour Level into Local is a quarterly thing, so it's going to go through March, right? January, February, March.
I don't know if why would it be quarterly?
Because it's not just the month; it's the quarter that is difficult for a lot of breweries. January and February.
Sure.
Maybe not so much March. Not for us. March is a pretty big month here.
Yeah. And February. Waste management open.
Yeah.
Got tons of people in town. Yeah.
I don't know that
You have to
translates
capture
to
that, but
to
it doesn't.
Tapper
It doesn't organically.
Yeah.
But there definitely are people who are craft beer fans looking for new breweries when they come to town for that. A lot of people. People still do beer tourism.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, there are.
I do.
We had the guy from Brew York
Yeah.
swing through here. Was literally at Fate here.
Oh, I did run into his posts today, actually, while I was putting our social media together. Didn't use any of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, great.
What else you got there?
Well, Brad, formerly of Scottsdale Beer Co. and Throne, is now the head brewer at Greenwood.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool new info. Love that dude.
I saw
Such a
his-
talented brewer.
I saw his picture on social media and I was like, that guy doesn't have social media.
It was Scott Gunther.
Yeah. That guy does have social
He
media.
does. He likes that.
Scott is with Santan.
Santan.
And there was a picture of them together. It was good to see Brad. Haven't seen him in a while.
Bonnie and I ran into him at BRI the other day. Went and sat down. I was like, hey, he looked over and he's like, hi. I'm like, it's Bauman. No one recognizes me anywhere anymore. It's amazing.
Because of the mustache.
Oh, I also have my glasses for you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, keep talking.
Yeah.
So Brad is now at Greenwood.
Yeah, Brad is now at Greenwood.
Talk about Josh. What?
No, I don't. I don't have anything to say while you're gone.
Okay.
I'm adrift. I'm
All right,
completely
okay.
lost.
All right. I'm gonna do the fashion show.
Oh, okay. Oh, I've seen the white glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Now I have this.
I feel like this is a the flip
Yeah.
downs. Yeah, this is the look that Ken Wilson accused you of being.
Yep.
A 70s detective.
Hey.
I mean, you do have this.
Way to go.
You do have this the Bears Ditka
Go
look to it.
Bears. Especially with this hat on.
He's got these the 70s frames, but in this case it's white. Yesterday you were wearing a more natural color, and he's
I
got
have
the
black and I have red and I have white.
right, and he's got the flip downs, and
yeah.
I don't know. You want to do a product
It's
placement?
awesome.
We're not getting
They're
paid
$7 each, man. And
from Zenny.
yeah, I mean it's like a no-brainer. My prescription is super easy, so when Bonnie gets her glasses, they're far more expensive. But mine are just like, oh, give me that and that and that and that. Easy.
I said this last year when I got my prescription. I should do that, and then I didn't. So now I'm going to wait for my new prescription.
Just depends on how difficult your prescription is.
Well, I just need a new one because I hate to buy glasses and then have them be wrong.
How you like that?
Red. That is
Yeah.
that is a Chip Mulala look right there with the red. I think he's worn red glasses. I saw a picture of him on social media. Chip Mulala with Huss,
Dubai.
who has been on a pretty long hiatus. Yeah, he was in Dubai.
I mean, I didn't see it, but Bonnie told me about it.
Okay.
I have another option for my little clip-ons too.
Oh, different mirrors.
Yeah.
This is not very good for podcast.
That's why they should look at the YouTube. It's fine.
Yeah, we have a YouTube
This
channel.
one's worth it.
They're all worth it.
They are. I know. You get so much more content on the YouTube, but whatever.
Well-
I don't listen to podcasts on YouTube either. I understand. Okay. So I mentioned Josh Ratliff. So Josh was working with Mr. Beer for a very long time.
That's true. Yeah.
And after
Mr. Beer was a home brew kit
kit.
with ingredients that you could. And it was very simple, and a lot of people who were
That was their
homebrewers
first
would kind of
intro.
but it is where people started.
Yeah,
and
it was at Bed Bath and Beyond.
and it's
so.
it is a sometimes we talk about businesses that are Arizona based
Right.
and don't really. That is one that is international.
It was
national.
it's from Australia, but Tucson was its United
Okay.
States.
Okay, so their headquarters were in
Tucson.
Tucson. Yeah. Okay. Well, not as good a story as I thought, but good enough.
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, probably 90% of homebrewers got their first batch was on a Mr. Beer because
Yeah.
someone was just in Bed Bath and Beyond or at
That
what is
well, while you're thinking of it, Bed Bath and Beyond was pre-existed the time frame that I talked about as a weird place to get beer
it is.
because they used to have like a warm shelf of international beers, and
Yeah.
occasionally some craft beer. And that's
Yeah.
where you would be able to find, like, you would find Sierra Nevada's American Stout,
Yeah.
right? You wouldn't find the
like-
pale ale. You'd find that. You'd find stuff. I guess back in the day, it was stuff that would actually sit on the warm shelf. Like, it was more porters and like things that people thought you couldn't get anywhere. So
Right.
you got them at Bed Bath and Beyond. Anyway,
And
Mr. Beer.
Yeah. And so, someone would walk by and be like, oh, my buddy Bob, he likes beer. Here's his homebrew kit.
Right.
And I'm going to get him that for his birthday. Cool. Because it was right there.
Yeah.
And so then Bob got a homebrew kit and then he made his first batch. And then he was like, I can do better than this. Let's find out how. And so that's how a lot of people got into homebrew. Anyways, that was what Josh Ratliff did.
Okay.
Then he moved to Pine Top
Right.
and was the head brewer at Pine Top for several years. Moved back to Tucson with an opportunity to help open a new brewery, and it is open.
Okay. And it's called.
It's called Rustic, Rustik, Rustic Brew. Josh is going over to Catalina and brewing the beer there, but they have one tap room now with another one under construction and a plan for a third by the end of this year.
Wow.
And they're going to just be serving all those beers in their own tap rooms and bingo bango.
3 all in the Tucson area.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that's that.
Okay.
Glad that that came through finally.
Yeah, I know he had.
It's a tough life for Pimp,
He was. It was difficult for him to really network in Pine Top, I think.
It is, yeah.
And boy, I feel weird telling his story without him here. But I know he had interviewed for some larger jobs in other parts of the country.
He did go back to Mr. Beer for a short time.
Yeah, but that was under the understanding that was going to tide him over, and while he could part-time help with this other enterprise.
Right.
Right. Probably should get him on to tell the story.
We should. Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, no. I like to hear stories of people moving on and doing other things, and there are some changes going on in Arizona, but specifically Tucson. So maybe if the beer is good and they do a good job, then maybe that's just something to look forward to down there, which is great. Like, it's not all doom and gloom, guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the the women's collab brew coming up in the next couple months. I know that they've got a brewery in line to work with, and they're working on talking about name and style right now.
Okay.
Not really sure what it's going to be, but that's something
We can
fun
name
to
the
look
brewery, though,
forward
right?
to.
We can
I
identify
wouldn't
them.
yet. I don't think everything's nailed down yet.
Oh, okay. Traditionally, they would make that this month, but I think they decided to move the focus to around International Women's Day.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense.
Making sense, yeah. What else locally? I know that it's Wren House's 10-year anniversary this year, and they've got 10 months of events scheduled.
Wow.
One event every month.
Seems like a lot.
I mean, that would be 12. I don't know. I heard 10, so I don't know what to tell you. Maybe they're skipping like July and August or something.
That would be wise.
I guess. Maybe it just gives a reason a person come out. Don't know. Didn't look at the social media post that hard. What else? Tug of war for the future of booze.
What?
There's a Taylor Swift picture. It said the tug of war for the future of booze.
Oh, on my computer
Yeah.
screen? This one?
Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's
but
Taylor Swift?
That's Taylor Swift, yeah.
I don't know.
And Post Malone.
Oh. Well, they made it black and white, and I
Yeah,
didn't really
sure.
see the tattoos on
I
his
know
face.
you can't see Taylor Swift without pink and blue like neon, right? It's all right. It doesn't follow.
I don't know. It's a Dave Infante story. I haven't read it yet.
All right.
I posted 2 hours ago. Well, we should, while we're talking about Mr. Infante, unfortunately, he's decided to mothball tap lines.
One of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss his voice. It was almost always a one-on-one show,
Right.
about a single topic in the history of beer, not not new stuff necessarily, but I like the format, and I like the refresher on things I thought I knew, and I thought it was important for people who started in the 2010s to have a better understanding of why things are and what's been tried and what shoulders you're standing on when you talk about standing on the shoulders of giants. So he finished his show with Maureen Ogle. It's the first show he did, and it's the last one. And they decided to talk about the future of beer 25 years from now. And I've seen also Mr. Allworth, who we just mentioned, talk about beer 25 years in the future as well. He took the cue. But I think, and I haven't listened to the Dave Infante podcast yet. I'm going to save it for some time when I really am not just driving or anything. I really want to listen to it with some focus. But Jeff Allworth in Beervana decided to sort of look backwards. And one of the issues that maybe we can bat around a little bit is Maureen Ogle thought in 25 years in the future, and granted, she's just a history writer, a good one, but she thought that somehow in 25 years we weren't going to have a middle tier of distributors. She thought the direct-to-consumer thing was going to sort of shake that up. I don't know if that's true, or that is likely. Jeff Allworth said there's no way that's going to happen. In his argument,
I don't know how you is there a way to use that quantum entanglement to just directly zap it through the wires to someone's house?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. ABI tried. They tried to leverage the Keurig technology. They also got involved in home brewing. They bought Northern Brewer. They bought through ZX Ventures. They bought what else? They bought all the rating sites.
That one of those pod brewing things.
Yeah. Is it Beer Maker that they buy? No.
I don't know.
But they saw a future of people making these products in the home and just getting presumably Budweiser kits to make, like you make coffee. It sounds like it was an idea that didn't have the technology behind it. Because how do you deal with the time factor? How do you deal with, is it powdered alcohol? I don't know. It seemed like it was like,
we had the future in our hands.
No. Anyway, I think so. I mean, it's not like it wasn't tried or explored by the very people who would benefit least from it. There's a hedge against the future, right? But Mr. Allworth, Jeff, I know him. I've known him for a long time. He made the argument like distribution is very boring, and it involves a lot of details. And just in terms of billing, keeping track of accounts,
trucks pulling up on a dock,
right? Dealing with all the shortages that individuals have and managing that traffic. But it was mostly about the mundane things of just managing a staff. And coordinating the hundreds and hundreds of accounts on the retail side, and then also managing all your suppliers. It's mundane work, and most breweries don't have a taste for it at all.
Right.
I mean, some of the reasons that people got into this industry is they wanted to lose all those corporate
annoying things, yeah.
Right.
I don't want to look at email.
Even with a staff of like 3 or 4 people, it can be a struggle, as we know. Like They don't have an apparatus for paying regular bills if they're not tied to the product they're making, right? Their audiovisual equipment, their direct TV, their TVs, their internet, all that stuff. Like that's enough of a hassle. Like, can you imagine
being a distributor too?
Yeah.
Having to manage trucks and changing oil,
right?
And getting tires,
right?
All
and
those things.
Calling accounts,
yeah.
Like literally on the phone. You can't text them. That's not how distributors do it.
Yeah, they do.
Well, all right.
Salespeople do for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, all the hey, if we're going to do business with you, we need this form filled out, and you need to sign off on terms and all this other stuff, right? It's not what anyone opens a brewery to do.
Yeah, they don't necessarily excel at that.
So that was one of the predictions, is that there will still be, and functionally, as we know, if you're running a retail operation and you got 12 handles, like that means 50 or 60 different products are going to be wanting to put their products on your handle in a given week. Do you have time to sit with all of them, to have them tell their story? There is a function to distributors in their sales force, and like, you don't want a stout. I have 7 other products that are not stouts that I got deals on, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there is a reason, and there'll always be a middleman. And every consumer product, there is a distribution tier.
I don't think that any of our members are arguing to get rid of distributors, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we as an industry understand the value that they give to the product,
Right.
which is getting it into people's hands. So, I don't think the distribution tier is going to go away.
No.
That's
No. I guess part of what I have to do is explain to them that some of the things that we do as small breweries are not a threat.
yeah.
But they do, like any other trade organization or groups of people, especially if they're multi-state, they get together and they tell horror stories about the slippery slope. If you let these guys do this, then we will lose what we have built for over 120 years. Or whatever.
Obviously, the middle tier wants every drop of alcohol to go through their organization.
Right.
With the asterisk of unless it's not profitable.
Right.
And most of the beers that come from the small breweries in Arizona would never be profitable for a distributor to try and take on as a thing. So in their case, they would say, well, then just don't have them. So then just don't have those breweries. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say in talking to my colleagues and following, along with what's going on nationally, we do have one of the better relationships with our distributors here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it can't be better. Doesn't mean we will not fight for things that I think are important for breweries. But we have gotten a lot of mileage out of our relationship. But, things are changing, and I would expect our relationship would have to change, and there will have to be some give and get in how we operate. And people might not see that, except for they might say, hey, this Strong Beer Festival, Arizona Strong, excuse me, had a different character this year. And it might be because there's not as big of a distributor presence. And there may be some net good from that, but there's also some negatives. Like, they used to provide a lot of equipment and support. And I think people expected to see the brand from their hometown where they grew up in another state. And that might not be the case. That might not be the priority of the distributor any longer. So those things you're going to see probably. We talked about the concentration of brands in the grocery store, which, again, we're not going to see the benefit of the Fry's Albertsons merger not going through because it would have been generally bad. So now it's just
Status quo
bad. So yeah, things are going to change, but we are working hand in hand on the hemp beverage bill, the distributors and the Brewers Guild and the Distillers Guild, and to some extent the wineries. And I think that's a good thing. But we're going to part ways on a few things, and some of them might be trivial, but we'll see how it all rolls out.
Right? Great. I guess we don't really have an update on THC. We're just waiting for the session to get rolling so that we can introduce the bill.
Yeah, we have a bill. I don't know if it has a bill number yet. It has to be submitted. We have a sponsor. I don't know that it's fair to say who that is until it gets put in the bill folder and gets a number.
Mm-hmm.
I did meet with a few members of the House Commerce, which eventually it will have to go through. I believe we're going through the Senate. So interesting. There used to be a Senate Commerce Committee. There is no longer a Senate Commerce Committee. So I'm not sure what direction our bill would go through. If there's a tax element, which I think we're keeping that separated out, it would go through Ways and Means or appropriations. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but they decided to not have a Senate Commerce, which is a little bit interesting. So I'll find out more about that. It's interesting also that right now, at least as of last night, the Arizona Legislative Government page, azledge.gov, did not have the committee assignments yet, although I know just from talking to people who some of the people are, as an example, on the Commerce Committee, but there's no, you can go through every House member and see what committees are on, but there is
But
no
it's not
paid-
consolidated.
Yeah, so
Websites.
which is
Freaking
well, and there's
websites.
and what I've also noticed, I haven't looked through the Arizona agenda where usually they are pretty good at pulling that information together. I didn't see any news stories.
That's
on,
not coming to my email anymore either. I don't know what's going on.
yeah. So it's always been late. It'll be like 2 weeks after the session, and
That
maybe
they finally get it up. Okay.
yeah. So
right.
kind of flying a little bit blind. I have a meeting tonight. I have a couple of senators have a fundraiser. I've been asked by the distributors lobby team, former representative, Steve Barkley and why can't I think of his name? It's also Steve, Steve Kaiser, to attend that tonight. So that's why I'm wearing.
Fancy clothes.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Lobbying clothes.
yeah.
I'm wearing cold clothes. It's cold out.
It is. It is. It's nice. It's nice.
Well, Rob, I think we should wrap it up.
Okay, let me just go through my notes here.
Oh.
We didn't.
I didn't know that you had notes.
Well, I have tabs.
Oh,
on my-
tabs open. Got it. Of course. Of course.
Sorry. You didn't see this story, but Pabst Brewing Company. A lot of times it's a go-to for your dive bar situation. A lot of people favor it as a American premium or light beer. Well, not it's not light. Lager. A lot of our brewery people, they either drink Miller or Coors or Pabst, generally speaking.
Right.
Well, Pabst was a brewery unto its own for many, many years
Oh, yeah.
in Milwaukee. And
Storied brewery.
Then, yeah, and then it
Died.
died, and there was a company that collected those brands like Hams and dozens and dozens of breweries that had closed under the Pabst moniker. They more or less.
Schlitz.
And they were, Schlitz, Blatz, and they were contract brewed, generally through Miller a lot of times, but also,
Independent breweries too.
here we go, PBR, Old Milwaukee, Stag, Stroh's, National Bohemian, Old Style,
Natty Boat.
High Lemons. And they were brewed also at a brewery in La Crosse, who is running into some
City Brewing.
it's running into some issues. It might go under bankruptcy, right? And I don't know if anyone's ever seen a Zoom call that I'm on that I'm at home. I have a giant Blatz sign. I got that through connections to that City Brewing / the distributor there through contacts in Milwaukee. So that's not great. Anyway, they're going to be now brewed at ABI Budweiser, Pabst, which is crazy to me. It's a weird world we live in.
I guess. I mean, Budweiser needs to find some volume somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's-
Essentially, they're overbuilt for what they're selling.
Yeah.
Wow, what a world!
Yeah. That was surprising to me. Also, I just want to talk about this briefly because I think it has some context. Right before Christmas Day, maybe, Harpoon and Smutty Nose merged to create Barrel One Collective, and I think they would be there's a half dozen other breweries that are rolled up into that as well. I think what I read was it was going to be the 14th largest brewery in the country as a result of that. So you've got Harpoon, Long Trail, Clown Shoes, Otter Creek, Catamount, among others.
Clown Shoes.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I heard that brand.
Yeah.
They were out here for a while.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Or maybe still. I don't know.
Could be. But I thought maybe 10 years ago that there was a future for something like that in Arizona specifically. And I know some people have tried specifically, and, Prescott, Oak Creek being rolled into some other regional brand. It would have made a lot of sense. Still could happen, but I don't know.
Probably not for Prescott, though.
No, but we mentioned, well, I mean, somebody owns the marks still.
Sure. Sure.
Maybe something like that happens in Tucson with a lot of breweries, and if there's a way to maximize taproom space and
Efficiencies.
Efficiencies could happen if they decide that makes sense. But could happen here in Phoenix too, to some degree.
Could.
But I think that is a model that things are going towards. It doesn't necessarily mean it's successful. Might just be a life raft, right?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. I mean, you also get that purchasing power with marketing. So
Yeah.
it does help.
Yeah, I mean, those are the inefficiencies, right? Marketing, supply chain, access to package.
I mean, and this doesn't necessarily apply to these guys, but if you're talking about smaller breweries in Arizona, what if they had a silo and they could get their grain at fraction of what they get bags for? Huge difference in your cost of goods.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think a lot of breweries also know that most people's grain price went down when ABI bought Four Peaks.
Yeah. Well, shipping went down because they
Yeah,
sent so much here.
yeah.
That's who I used.
All right.
Okay.
Now we can go. I know that's not a exciting high note. I just wanted to make sure we cover that because because I think somewhere down the road we will reference. I don't know about Pabst, but we'll reference
These things happening.
These things.
Okay, so you gave our loyal listeners some nice background info. Did they smash the like button and hit subscribe yet?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, well, in that case, now that you've said I don't know, I suppose it's time for us to end the podcast.
It is because I didn't get a beer and I'm out of coffee and I think I want a beer. So
Yeah, this is not a beer podcast. It's a podcast about beer. I don't know if you know that, Rob.
I know that.
It's true.
Sometimes I'm going to have the beer find me because sometimes it doesn't, but
Well,
most times it does.
I was drinking a Wren House Black Caddis Porter. It's delicious, and I thank them for making great beer.
Cheers.